Welcome back to In-Flight Snack, a New York Jets podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. Been a minute. My name is Rami Lavi. That's Bilal Powell, fresh from Indianapolis, your favorite city in the world, and the NFL Combine. Bilal, I got to start here. First of all, good morning. Second, why do you hate Indianapolis?
What's going on, Rami? I don't hate Indy. I just want to move the combine to different locations like the Super Bowl, Pro Bowl. Outside of this, I think the combine in the Hall of Fame game, everything else they change locations. I think you'll make it fun if you just put it in different locations. You
What?
attract more people. Like Indy's big for like conventions. So you may think that the NFL Combine is like one of the biggest conventions there. It's really not because there's so many other things going on in Indy at the time. And now with everything being virtual, Zoom, you don't even see that many coaches like you do anymore. So, the only people you really see are the scouts mainly. And then you may see a couple like execs, but it's just different now.
I saw a lot of headlines like I forget who it was, certain coaches not going. Does that stuff matter? Like coaches not being there? Like as long as your scouts, your general managers, like I forget which coach it was. I think it might have been now it's gonna drive me insane, but there was one coach who wasn't there and people were making a big deal out of. Like, does that matter?
I thought it mattered having a position coach pull you in the meeting, but I guess now with the Zoom, it's the new thing, I guess, man. But honestly, you want to see a guy in person. You want to see him move in person before you actually, because you can see him move on the field, but not necessarily saying he's going to do anything on pro day. So your first chance of actually getting to see him maneuver on the field is maybe rookie minicamp. So why not come out to the combine and get a chance to see a guy in person, see how his body measures up, and just see the personality that you're dealing with? Because we all know in person is better than via Zoom. I mean, you and we haven't met yet in person,
It's true.
right? It's probably be a different energy in
Yeah.
person. But I don't get it, man. Like I would want everybody there representing the organization.
Yeah. And what's interesting, you mentioned the pro day. Some guys don't perform. That's like the new thing. What do you think of a guy like Caleb Williams, who's the consensus #1 overall pick, not wanting to throw on his pro day?
I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I don't
I'm
understand
saying
that.
that's to me, it sounds like if you don't want to throw, that can only mean that you're like not confident, like, right?
I mean, listen, if you're a competitor, the best of the best is lined up at the
And
combine.
they want to show
You get
off.
you
Yeah.
get a chance to compete against the best of the best in your class to showcase what type of competitor you are. So to not have a legitimate reason other than I'll throw a pro day where you're comfortable in your comfort zone and you're in front of your guys or whatever it may be, whatever reason it may be. This generation is different, and I have to say that it's different. Like if you didn't have a legitimate injury, guys were performing. They were performing, but being a number one pick and you hearing you're being a number one pick, how much pressure do you have as far as I need to go perform? Or hey, everywhere I'm hearing, everywhere I'm looking, it says number one. But the reps that you do not get, that other guy gets, and now he gets an opportunity. Like you hear about Michael Penix, that dude had the tightest spiral. It came off his hand like Michael Vick. I mean, he had the tightest spiral, the velocity of the ball. He's gonna climb in the draft. They're saying he was a second rounder. I think he may bump himself up to a first rounder. So, I mean, when you look at what Caleb Williams is trying to do, I get it. Maybe there's a mechanic thing that he needs to continue to fix before, throwing in front of the scouts. Maybe it's just something that, hey, I may need a couple more weeks to prepare my throwing motion or, you know, getting used to the football. I think people don't realize the size difference in a college football and in NFL football is a lot different. We saw Teddy Bridgewater struggle at the combine throwing when he didn't have his gloves on. And then he came back for pro day. He had his gloves on and he pretty much put himself in the first round. But my thing with Caleb Williams is if it's not an issue with the size of your hand, go out and perform in front of the scouts and in front of the owners, in front of the head coaches and GMs.
Yeah, but he's already talking about Chicago like it's a foregone conclusion, right? Like, hey, I can't wait to be in Chicago. It's a great city, all that. So, like, why would you need a throw? There's only a negative from it, right? Like, there's no positive. Like,
Yeah, mhm,
because
yeah,
the
that's
only
what I'm
thing that,
saying, like, he's
yeah,
probably looking at it like, I can only drop down if I go
yep,
perform. So
yeah,
why would I waste the chance or take the risk of doing that? But here's the thing, if you do bad at the combine, you can come back and bounce back at pro day. So
yep,
now you're just putting all your eggs in one basket now, just saying, I'm gonna perform at pro day.
yep.
So it's is you're putting all the risk on yourself now, instead of having two chances to shine or two chances to put yourself in a better situation, now it can only get worse from here.
And so interesting that we were talking about this right before we started that, the younger generation, my generation or younger than me, we were talking about that. And we'll get to that story in a minute. But we were saying, like, to me, if you look at someone like you or someone just, I don't know, it felt like 5 years ago, the competitor in you would be like, I don't care. I want to go out there. I know it can only be negative, but I'm going to go out there and I'm going to perform so it won't be negative. It's almost like the NBA, like slam dunk contest now. All the superstars don't want to do it because, like, oh, the only thing that could happen is we lose and we get clowned on social media. Like, go out there and show up. Like that's been happening with LeBron forever. He's never done the dunk contest. And like, cool, LeBron, you have 40,000 points. You're the greatest ever. But like at some point, you're small as a competitor because you're not willing to do something as like dumb as like the dunk contest. Like to me, if you're a truly great competitor like Caleb Williams should be to be an NFL quarterback, you should, knowing what's on the line, knowing that only bad things can happen. This could only become a negative for me. Still, I want to go out there and show off at the combine. No?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Rami, the reason I only did the bench press at combine, and I probably shouldn't have did that because I wasn't really prepared for it, was an injury. That's the only thing that kept me from performing at the combine. Was a true injury, a real legit injury. And I was so upset at not being able to compete because I'm watching these guys and I knew that I was better than the majority of the guys that was selected before me. And my play and the longevity of my career, it showed it. And I knew it deep down. And then I knew that I only had one more shot. So then when the pro day came around, I pulled up with another Hemi at pro day. So I didn't get a chance to perform. I had 6 position coaches come to my pro day. If people don't understand what that means that you're pretty good. If you have 6 or more position coaches, not scouts. There were
Yep.
32 scouts there, but there were 6 running back position coaches at my pro day. That's a big deal. And I didn't get a chance to do it because I pulled up on my second 40 with another hamstring. Like I re-injured the same hamstring. And that's what I'm trying to tell you about Caleb Williams is now, if you don't have a chance to bounce back from the combine, you putting all the pressure on yourself at pro day. Like it's outside of just being a natural competitor, you're putting pressure on yourself now to just say, "Hey, I only have this shot to do this." And you already know what that pro day is going to look like. He's going to have
Yeah.
32 teams out there. He's going to have multiple position coaches out there. It's going to be a lot of pressure on him. And will he be able to handle it?
So it says you ran a 4.52 40. Is that correct?
It was faster. I
I
don't
knew you were going to
understand the
say that. That's
official
why I
term.
asked. I
I don't
see
understand the
Google. I just
official
Googled
term.
it. I was like,
Listen, I don't understand the official times because I had 2 different guys come to me and they were kind of upset that I ran the second time. Because someone said, "Oh, I had you at a 5.451." One guy said I had you at a 4.46. One guy said 4.44. So I was like,
yeah,
well, I'm
because,
gonna run it again because I really didn't open up because I was still in my mind worried about my hamstring. So the second time that I ran, my second attempt, I was like, I think I can open up a little more, open my stride up a little more, like see if I can hit this, low 4.4, high 4.3. And I pulled up, and those 2 guys walked over to me and said, "Why did you run, man? Like I told you I had you at a 4.4. I don't care about a 40. I can care less about a 40. Let the scouts handle the 40s. I wanted to see you move in position in positions drills." But, hey, here we are
Would you
now.
what were you pressing at that point? Like, what was your bench press?
I did 18. I wanted to do 20 plus. But like I
Got it.
said, man, I wasn't able to train because I had a grade 2 hamstring. So I was most of my time getting ready for the combine was trying to heal and get healthy.
And
I
then look
it's,
where it
it's
led you, though. It got you to the Jets, so it's all worth it
it
in the
did
end.
because I'm thinking to myself like, okay, what if this team would have taken me third round or second round? And you gotta remember too, Rami, I came out during the lockout.
Mm,
So guys didn't get a chance to go rookie mini camp, learn the playbook, and then go
right.
to training camp. Once the lockout was lifted, the next day was physicals, and the day after that was straight to the football field. So you had rookie guys coming in not knowing anything.
Well,
Like
that you didn't
it
play,
was
like, your first 5 or 6 games of the season, right?
I didn't because
Yeah.
I mean that playbook was crazy trying to learn. Like I was legitimately I'm sorry. I was learning a playbook as I went. Like it wasn't like, okay, I
Yep.
learned it in April and May and I'm in
And
it
LT
6
was
weeks.
still there that year, right? That was
LT was
yeah.
there. Well, that was the only reason they brought
Mhm.
LT back was because of the lockout. They was like, just in case this guy's not ready to go,
So it's
because
LT and Sean was still there.
they were still there, and
Yep.
LT came back on a 1-year deal because it was like, I don't think this guy's gonna be ready. And Joe McKnight was there, and God
Right.
rest his soul, but he I don't think he turned out to be the guy that they wanted and thought that he would be as a third down back from a blocking standpoint. So that's why they brought me in, honestly, to really replace LT. So they was like, well, this guy's not going to be ready because, here we are putting in this offensive system and he's learning as we go. Like it's tough. Like Cam Newton, I was just sitting here thinking like all these guys that got thrown into that system, these early first round picks, the guys that got thrown into the system, and that had to be some pressure. Like you had Cam Newton. Think about that. Like he was the first quarterback. He was first
Yep.
pick.
Yep.
Like he had to go learn the whole system without a rookie minicamp. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you have to take your head off to that. And what he did with his career in Carolina.
Speaking of Cam Newton and hats, did you see that video of him just like he got jumped and he beats up like it's like straight out of a movie. He's beating up like 7 people. I don't know what the backstory is, but he's wearing one of his giant ass hats that he wears, and the hat didn't move. And he's just throwing punches, throwing haymakers. Everyone's coming at him. It's like a movie, literally, where he's just spinning around, just knocking the shit out of everyone, and his giant
Mhm.
ass hat is staying on his head. This was like
I
last
listen,
week.
listen, I'm involved with the 7-on-7, the youth stuff, the travel ball, and it has gotten it has gotten out of control with the way some of the things are ran. I feel like from a guy that really wants the kids to develop in the sport, I feel like a lot of it is a money grab, and I
Yeah.
and I think a
I
lot
mean,
of people
we
that
talked about this with AAU basketball where they're not even practicing. They're just
they're
playing as
just
many
showing up.
games as
It's
possible. Yeah.
possible. Like that's not
Yep.
development. You don't develop in games. You develop in practice.
Yeah. And if you
And,
if
and,
you
and
practice now, it's like the kids like, well, we'll just go play somewhere else. And then
nothing
that's it.
against the people that own the companies and own and sponsor the events. It's mainly the guys that are in control. So I think parents need to take a true evaluation of who they're letting their young dudes be with over the weekends and who
Yep.
guys that are leading you. I mean, I made a decision to pull my son off of a team based on how his coach was reacting and talking to the players. I'm not the dad to sit on the sideline and hey, you need to play my son. It had nothing to do with playing time, but I watched the bench. I watch how our coach talk. All that leads up into the things that you saw with Cam Newton, the
Yep.
trash talk, all that should have been. It should have came to a halt from jump. Like I get it, you're trying to create a certain culture, a competitive culture, but you have to make it a safe competitive culture. Let's be honest. Like and Cam Newton, I- that puts your whole thing in perspective. The guy's 6'5", 6'6", 240. That's not your average human. So
No.
like
Yeah.
to all the people that are standing behind and looking on the cameras and watching games, and you get an idea of how big and how physical football players are. I mean,
Oh, for sure.
yeah, 2, 3 guys hanging on him, and I mean,
And this
come
is a
on, he's
couple
he's
years
used
post
he used to D
retirement.
tackles.
Yeah.
He used to D tackles hanging
Exactly.
off of him. So what do you think he's gonna do with a guy that's 180, 175,
Yeah.
150?
Yeah.
But
Imagine trying to slip a Quinnen Williams tackle. This is light work for him.
that's light, but I'm glad he's safe, and then hopefully, man, I think this should open the eyes of former players around the nation that are involved with 7-on-7 and travel ball, travel football, travel AAU. Just be safe, man, because a lot of people, um, this is what they hang their hats on, honestly. And you have to be able to um, talk down a certain situation and be able to walk away. And I don't know the whole story. Like you said, I don't know it. I just saw the cameras and him tossing dudes around like pillows and rag dogs. So, but just stay safe out there, honestly.
I don't know if there's footage of this next one, but this story is similar where Braylon Edwards, another former teammate of yours, was a hero. He was at the gym and there was a young 25-year-old, and this is how we got into the conversation earlier about my generation or the younger generation. So this 25-year-old kid's at the gym and he's playing his music, and an 80-year-old was in the locker room and was like, "Hey, you're playing your music too loud. Can you turn it down a bit?" And the 25-year-old, I don't know what happened, but that led to a fight. And he starts beating up an 80-year-old, and he was going to literally, and this is what the story says, was going to beat him to death. And Braylon Edwards was at the gym, local YMCA, stepped in and ripped the 25-year-old off of him. Like, this 25-year-old should get charged with attempted murder. Like that's literally like this. You're because he said your music was too loud, and so now you're just gonna beat the crap out of an 80-year-old dude at the gym. So Braylon Edwards, hero, but this story is wild.
Yeah, it's wild, but at the end of the day, we don't know the backstory of it. That's like the Cam Newton thing. Like, we want to say, well, why did that 25-year-old guy jump on a 70-year-old
But it's
man?
crazy that there's stories like this coming out every day.
Yeah, it's every day, but not every day do you hear a former football player saving a life.
That's true. Yeah,
So I think
look at
that's
the
what
positive. Yeah.
really made the headline. Things like this happen around the country every day. But just to go back to it's a certain way you have to talk to people. That's what I was telling you. Like when you're dealing with certain people, you don't know who you're dealing with. You don't know people's mental status. You don't know people's background. It could have been a trigger. You don't know how the old man spoke to him. It could have been a
Yep.
belittling situation. It could have been anything to make that young man snap and really attack this guy. Uh, but let's just grateful that Braylon was there. And honestly, I think with some of the things that happen with football players in the offseason, we'll get to this, man. It's a big deal because you hear about the statistics of guys getting arrested in the offseason, like football players, right? You hear
Yep.
about it. So to hear and see a former football player, a teammate named to be scrolling across the screen for a positive reason, man, I think that gives us a point as an alumni, as a NFL legend. That's where you want your name to be scrolling across the screen. Like I tell my players, Rami, is when your name's being called, let's make sure it's for the positive and not the negative. So, hats off to my guy, Braylon Edwards. And we have to get him on the show too.
Yeah.
We really
Yeah.
do.
We have to get him
Because
on
he
and
stood us up. I'm telling about himself too.
yeah.
So we
Yeah,
got to get him on the
exactly.
show.
I wasn't
Yeah.
gonna tell anyone, but hey, now we gotta
I told him.
now it's like, hey, man, come on. We're talking you up over here. It's time to get him on. Speaking of another guy we have to get on, Brent Boyer was in headlines last week, not because of anything he did, but the Mecole Hardman interview where he goes on this podcast. And this guy, I mean, sucked here. And this guy, everyone said, like from day one, and you really predicted this all season long. They asked him to field punts in the preseason because he was battling with Xavier Gibson, and he refused. He's like, "What do you mean? I'm the vet. I came in here. I shouldn't have to field punts. I came in as a veteran wide receiver." So he refused. So they gave the job to someone else. So he lost the job, and then he was losing playing time because he showed up like, "I already earned this thing. I don't need to earn anything else. I already own this." And then apparently, while he was still on the Jets, Mecole, he was tampering with Kansas City, telling them he wanted to come back to them. While he's still on the Jets, he's giving game plans to Kansas City. Apparently, he shared the game plan with Kansas City, which is crazy because that was Zach's best game of his career. And then he was also sharing the game plan in the Philly game. He shared it with Philly, which is crazy because that was the Jets' best win of the year was against Philly. So Mecole Hardman sounded just like He was not a great dude to have around here. And it's funny because he was the one calling out the Jets, and he was calling out Brent Boyer like, oh, I don't, this guy was riding me too hard and working me too hard. First of all, everyone came to, like, Morstead, all these guys, especially the special teams guys, came to Boyer's defense, which I think you would too. And then second, it's just like everyone called him out like immediately. If everyone's like, you said there was something underlying going on with Mecole Hardman, this dude thinks he's something because he won a Super Bowl. You won a Super Bowl because you played with Patrick Mahomes, no other reason. Like, you got lucky that Kadarius Toney was such an ass that he had to sit in the Super Bowl, because if he didn't sit in the Super Bowl, it would have been Toney catching that game-winning catch, and Mecole, your ass would have been on the bench. So, like, I mean, just the whole story. I don't know where you want to go with it, but take it wherever you want to go.
Honestly, I'll tell you this, just from a former player's eyes and perspective. Mecole Hardman, Super Bowl champion, veteran, gets signed to a nice deal for the things that he's done in Kansas City. He had a nice deal.
Yep.
He thought he was going to come over and be the guy. Treated like a veteran. Got outperformed. They said, well, we got to put our money to use some way, somehow. Go catch kicks, go catch punts. And in his mind, he's like, I'm past that. I'm past being a special teams guy. I need to be on the offense. You guys paid me to be over here. In his mind, that's what happened. Because
Yeah, but
Rami,
let
I
me
was
ask you
there.
this.
I was there, Rami. But
Yeah.
but instead of saying, I could have got pissed off when they brought in Chris
This
Johnson
is
and
what I was
Chris
going to ask you.
Ivory
You're someone
and
who
all these
every year you
guys.
had to earn it.
I had to earn it every freaking
Mm-hmm.
year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I didn't allow my pride to get in the way to say, hey, I'm all right, bring him in. I'm about to outwork him. The only way a guy is not gonna outwork me is if you truly paid him. And I'm talking
Yep.
about Matt Forte. I'm talking about all these guys. Let's be honest. Like, it's the truth. So, Mecole Hardman's his pride got in the way because he thought he was past the special teams phase, which he was fooling himself anyway, because that's another opportunity for you to get the ball in your hands. That's
Yep.
another opportunity for you to extend your career as a return guy and play for a very long time. Andre Roberts, he played for a very long time, just receiving and fielding punts and kicks. So, I don't know when I talk about younger dudes, I don't understand what's going on with the pride these days. So, it's a privilege to play in the NFL. Like, they don't need you. And listen, I've been retired going on 4 years, and in a couple weeks, 4 years I'll be retired, and the NFL is still the NFL. It's gonna be here long after I leave, and it was here before I came. So yeah, your hard work got you there, but it's a privilege to be there, man. Like, they don't need you. Those teams don't
Yeah.
need you. No matter how many wins or how many, this game is going to still generate millions and millions of dollars without you, without me, without Patrick Mahomes, without Tom Brady. It's going to still be the NFL. No one's bigger than his shield. So I think if he would have humbled himself a little bit, his season would have been a lot different.
Yeah.
And I think with the scheme that Brent Boyer has, Brent Boyer could have made him a Pro Bowler. Brent Boyer could have made him a lot of money and extended his career had he just bought into the system.
And what's crazy about that is, like, this guy, you're still in the league. Like, why are you coming out now? And everyone called him out. Like, every single one of the Jets players. Like, the Dion Dawkins stuff happened earlier in the week with Dion, who obviously plays for the Bills, and he was saying, "Oh, the Jets play for social media. They're not." The only guy he gave credit to was Quinnen. He said Quinnen's the only real dude. Everyone else is just out there trying, for the Instagram pictures and stuff. Which, whatever. No one really called him out, though. Sauce called him out a little bit, and he's like, oh, this guy's tripping. But Sauce is very active on social media. When Mecole came out, it was like all his former teammates. And you predicted this. You said something's going on in the building. You said this all year. You said from the time he wasn't getting playing time, before he was even sent to Kansas City, he wasn't getting playing time. And you're like, something's going on behind the scenes. So you predicted it, and you were right. But if I'm Mecole, okay, I just won a Super Bowl, but, like, aren't you trying to get a contract this year? Aren't you trying to continue playing in the league? This looks terrible for you. Like, who's going to pick you up now?
Who's gonna pay you?
Yeah.
You know what I
I
mean? Like,
mean,
if you would have returned
he
some
signed like a
kicks,
1-year, $6 million deal with the Jets, something like that. Like, it's not like he was,
that's
signed
good
this
money for
mega
the things
contract.
that he did. Like, he
Oh,
didn't
yeah,
he
he made a
wasn't a
lot
number
more
2.
than he
He
did.
wasn't
Oh, for sure,
yeah,
he
like
was nothing.
he wasn't that guy over in Kansas City.
I
We
wanted
all
to
know
pay them
that.
I wanted to pay
But
them $6.
that's what messed up his perspective though. I mean, is he thought that getting paid that money was going to allow him to be that receiver, that number 3 receiver, the guy that doesn't need to go return kicks. You kept a young guy here, let the young guy do it. Let me be the football player on the offensive side of the ball. He didn't want to be that special teams guy. I can, and I don't know, maybe maybe it didn't like Brent Boyer, but just from a player's perspective, being in the locker room, listening to conversations, that's what I got from other guys. And it's the truth. Like when a guy
Yep,
from another team gets paid a certain amount of money, they want to be treated as such. And he felt like, hey, this is a number 3 receiver money. Oh, in my mind, I don't even have to go catch punts and kick returns. And they probably said something within the lines of, yeah, we'll bring in a young guy to do that. But eventually you didn't perform the way you did or was supposed to on the offensive side of the ball. Maybe you didn't kick it off with the OC. I don't know what it is. There's so many guys that have an opinion in the building. Maybe a guy that brought you in liked you and the OC didn't like you.
yep.
You know
And
what I mean?
apparently
So it
no
was
one
like, we can't use him
yeah.
over here. So put him on. You get our money worth, put him at punt return. And so you say no, now you're looking crazy. Now you're inactive.
Yep.
Now is no, now you're giving away game plans because you're mad and all these. Now your pride's in a way. I already know what he was thinking because I was thinking the same thing, but instead I buckled down, I manned up, and I always remember what Anthony Lynn told me as a running back my rookie year. He said, Bilal, cream always rises to the top. So every year that they bring these guys in to do what they do, if it's a long season, hey, just stick with it. Stick with it. When my number's called, every interview, you can go back and listen to every interview I've ever done, Rami. And when they talk about my playing time, when they talk about anything else, I say, hey, when my number's called, I'm taking advantage of my opportunity. You know what I mean? Like I played 9 years and I know my stats do not stick out for a 9-year veteran as a running back, but go look at the numbers and the number of opportunities I got and then the production with it. Now you put me with the same amount of touches with these other guys, I think I'm a top tier running back from
Hell yeah.
first down, second down, third down to be an emergency quarterback for 6 years. I knew the whole offense, 7 offenses. That's what his mindset should have been, but it wasn't.
And I'll
And
tell
now
you
you're stuck in these headlines for the wrong reason.
Jets fans aren't stupid. We see it. Like, there's a reason why you are a fan favorite and other people are not. Like guys who maybe did theoretically quote unquote more for the franchise aren't viewed the same way you're viewed. Jet fans care about the work. They care about a guy who's going to come in and care as much as they care because the Jets fans care a ton, So, and by the way, you wouldn't be sitting here right now doing this if you didn't care about the Jets. Like you said, you're going to be 4 years retired. 4 years retired having to root for the team is probably harder than 9 years playing for the team. You know what I mean? Like it's torture being a Jet fan, but you cared. And that's why Jet fans love you. Like like he had that opportunity. Everyone who comes through this door has that opportunity to be that guy that Jet fans are going to love. And Mecole had that opportunity just as anyone else. And he walked out as a villain because of the things he did and the things he's saying now. Now, one of the things he did say, um, is he talked about Aaron and he's like, hey, once Aaron went down, there was no backup plan. Okay, like that's like a cheap talking point. But at the end of the day, right now, the Jets are doing the
But
same thing
everyone
again.
knew that. Everyone saw
Yeah,
it. Everyone that wasn't a
exactly. And
secret. Everyone knew it.
right. And Aaron's saying now he wants to play 3 to 4 more years if he can stay healthy, which is crazy. He just said it on a podcast this week. He's 40 years old, but he's got a chip on his shoulder. And to me, I get that you have to have a backup quarterback for him. And we talked about a bunch of guys. We didn't even mention Jacoby Brissett. I think Jacoby Brissett would be a great option. Um, I know you texted that to me. Like, there shouldn't be any other plan. Aaron should be the plan right now because he's still here. It's still built around him. You mentioned the offensive coordinator might not have gotten along with Mecole. The offensive coordinator only gets along with Aaron. Like that's why he's here. But at the end of the day, you did this whole thing for Aaron to be here. You went out and got his teammates. You went out and put a team around him, and it was built for Aaron. You have to see it through. So the more and more I think about it going into next year, this offseason is such a big offseason. And we'll talk about the draft coming up, and we'll talk about different things in the offseason as we go. It should be built around Aaron, don't you think?
It is around Aaron, and we all know the
That's not a
game is
bad
going
thing.
up
He's a
front.
Hall of Fame quarterback.
He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Like you have to pick a guy that is built around. Like every organization is built around someone. Like if I have a franchise quarterback, I have to go get good receivers. If I have a good running back, I have to go get a good offensive line. Now, I do
Yep.
think that there are pieces that they need to fill in. Yeah, you have Aaron. That's good. You don't have to go out and find a franchise quarterback. You have one. Go out and find a backup quarterback, but also go out and find an offensive line that can protect this guy,
Yeah.
and then try to create depth at that
Yep.
position. Maybe you bring in a veteran. Maybe bring in a
Draft, free
veteran.
agent. Yep.
Bring in someone that when everything hits the fan, there is a backup plan, and let's
Yep.
not be stuck the way we're stuck this previous season. But Aaron it's the truth. Like when you talk about Super Bowl contending, you talk about quarterbacks, and Aaron is the best available thing out there right now for the New York Jets as a starter. And then you just go find you a guy that can come in, learn the system, be cool, fit in the locker room, be a locker room guy. And when if a big if, right? We don't want to see it again. If Aaron goes down, he's able to fill in.
Yep. And that's the biggest thing. I still think, despite everything that happened, Aaron Rodgers, this team should be built around Aaron Rodgers, because we never got to see it play out. We don't know. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but we never got to see it. So find out this year. And if it doesn't work, they'll blow it up and that'll be that. But let's find out. Give it a real shot, because we know what things look like without the Hall of Fame quarterback. Let's find out what they look like with him, because it's built around him. And like we said with Kansas City, they had the most holds, the most penalties on their offensive line. They had the most drops from their wide receivers all year. And it didn't matter because they had Patrick Mahomes. Aaron Rodgers is that special guy when healthy, so hopefully he's healthy this year. Now, I don't know why this is happening, but we had another altercation story. You ready for another one? Did you see this one?
No.
This is Breece Hall was
Not Breece.
no, he didn't do anything wrong. He was at an airport, and somebody at the airport was just haggling him for. Do you ever have? It was one of these one of these autograph guys who come over and they try and get autographs to sell online, right? And he was just bothering him, and he wouldn't leave him alone. So Breece said nothing. Breece just tried to walk away, and finally, Carl Banks, former Giants legend, stepped in front of him. And I think actually our co-worker, technically, our colleague at Believe, I'm pretty sure. I think he hosts a podcast here. I don't know. There's a lot of people at Believe. Do you know this?
No.
I'm pretty sure he does. I think he does the Giants podcast for Believe. I'm 97% sure. We'll have to find out. Anyway,
Tiki doesn't do it. I thought Tiki did that.
No. Tiki does. Tiki works with me at WFAN.
Oh, Tiki works with you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, by the way, I mean, I'll mention it. Fine. I hosted my first show on WFAN, my first solo radio show. It was awesome. I did 5 hours. Can you imagine? Staying there 5 hours solo? I mean, I had a producer, but
But tell everyone what time you had to arrive, though, because that's what I saw.
Oh, I started at 3 a.m. Yeah.
3 a.m.
But that I'm used to at this point. Okay, we do 24/7.
Arriving at 3 a.m. But how far is your commute?
Oh, so I mean, it takes I took the train, so it took an hour and a half.
So that means you have to get up at least 1, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I didn't know. So what I did, I didn't want to be tired. I didn't want to be waking up for it. So what I did was I took a nap the day before from 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 8 o'clock in the evening. Then I watched the Rangers game. There was a hockey game or a basketball game that night. I don't remember. Oh, there was a Rangers game, right? Because they played against Toronto that night. I watched the game and had my night like that was my morning. And then I went to the studio. I had a meal, I ate here. I had some sushi, had some coffee, and then I went to the studio. I got there at 2:30, to try and just to have a half hour to get settled. And then I was there, till I was probably there till 9 a.m. because I ended up staying an hour after my show to clip a bunch of my stuff. But yeah, 5 hours on the radio on WFAN. It was super cool.
That's the real hustle, dude. That's the real.
Oh, I mean, but hustle. This is, I've woken up. So when I work the morning show, which I do sometimes, I wake up at 3. and my alarm goes off at 3. That is brutal. Like, you don't, I mean, you probably know from your days playing and like that, like a 3 a.m. alarm clock, especially in the winter when it's freezing outside. Some of the days I was walking outside, it was 12 degrees, and I'm walking in the city at 4:45 in the morning. That is that is hellish, you know?
That sound like college days, man. Waking up
Yeah.
4:30 for
But that's
5 o'clock, man.
but that's the hustle. Like, I need to do that because guess what? If I don't do that, someone else is gonna outwork me. Like, we just
Yeah.
talked about this.
Come on,
There's
Mecole Hardman. Mecole Hardman,
Yeah.
you here?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't
If
complain.
I don't
Do it.
do
Do the
that,
work.
if
Grind.
I if I don't show up to the studio at 4 a.m., they'll find someone that will. If I don't show up to the studio on Christmas Eve, on New Year's Eve, on every freaking Halloween, every holiday, every weekend, they'll find someone else that does. And so I know that. And the only reason I hosted a show, and people, you know what's funny about people, and I didn't say this anywhere, but like people were texting me or like they just found me online because they heard of me. So people are now tweeting at me, people are DMing me, like, that's so cool that you got to host the WFN. How'd you get to do that? They never heard of me till Sunday. They don't know that for the last 3 years, 3.5 years, I've been putting the work in behind the scenes to get to that point. You know what I mean? Like, so they heard of me on Sunday and they're like, they think, oh, wow, there's a new guy who just showed up. And people are like welcoming me to WFAN. I'm like, I've been busting my ass here for 3.5 years. You just never heard of me. You know what I mean? Like,
Hey, they'll hear you one day.
yeah, that's my
Just don't
point. Like,
forget about guys like me, all right?
hey,
I was supposed
you're
to call in. I know it. I was
no,
supposed to
you're
call in.
good. Hey, we'll have another chance, hopefully with more like normal human hours, you
Yeah.
know?
But
But
Sunday at man,
7 a.m. I was like,
that's
can you
tough.
call it like 7:30? I tried to give you like the last possible segment because the last segment started at like 7:40.
Yeah.
But it was so much fun. Like the last 2 hours, I can't even describe to you. Like the last 2 hours was just like it just felt like a euphoria where you're just hanging out. You know what I mean? Like the first 20 minutes, I was so nervous. Like I don't know what it was like when you got your first snap in the NFL. Like after all the work, like you
I fumbled my first one.
you fumbled your first snap.
Yeah, Denver
That
Broncos
you know
on the
what
goal line.
that makes me feel even better though,
Yeah.
because like I didn't fumble. I think it sounded fine, but my head, like my friend texted me right before. He's like, hey, I told him I'm not nervous. I don't know what's going on. Like I'm nervous that I'm not nervous. And he's like, because I was prepared, I had everything ready. He's like, once the music turns on, like for the show, the music's gonna hit and you're gonna see the on-air light go on. He's like, you're gonna freak the fuck out, you know?
Yeah.
But so I did a little bit, like I panicked a little bit once the music went on, like my heart sank, but I just went numb. So I was like, I have my prep, I have it in front of me, I'll just do it, I'll just go for it. And then we'll see, like, I'll get in a groove. And once like the first caller called in, and like once we hit the first commercial break, like 20 minutes in, after that, it kind of just flowed from there. But when I got to like the last 2 hours, it was literally like I was just having a conversation, and it was so much fun.
Yeah.
So hopefully I get another chance. We'll see when that is. But yeah, it was so cool. And what are you laughing at?
I mean, just come on, man. I mean, this is how it all starts. You know what I mean? Like it starts
Oh,
like
for
this, and
sure.
next thing you know, everyone knows who Rami Lavi is.
Yeah.
That's how it's gonna start.
Hey, dude, we got to once we're at that point. I mean, we got to get in studio. We have to do something in person at some point. I know we keep saying this, but I was talking to Peter Schwartz about it too because I know he had you on out in when you were out in Vegas.
Yeah.
Big dude.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. He was
so
cool.
he's
Yeah.
telling,
Peter's
yeah.
been around. I know who he was running
Oh
the
yeah, he
Jets
was in your
for a
locker
long
room,
time.
right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
know
think he was in
Peter.
the locker room back when you guys
Yeah.
back when you played.
I mean, look
Yeah,
at
so
Kimberly
he
Martin. She was in the
yeah,
Jets. She was a journalist, and now she's ESPN.
for sure.
Showing her retro ones, and now she's just
Yeah,
different.
exactly. By the way, like, if I start making that bread that the hosts make, then I could start showing off really for real. I don't have to wear the same hoodie every freaking day on the show here.
Listen, that's okay. Hey, like,
I could start getting my cap game up like yours. Your
Believe
Jets
still
hat.
hasn't sent me my hoodie, my hat. I
Yeah,
talked to
I never got a hoodie. I got a hat from them. I should
yeah.
probably wear it. I should
Who's
be a
it? Who
company
you
man.
reached out to Cam? I saw him in person. He
I
still
think it was
hadn't sent it
Cam.
to me
You saw him in person?
at Super
I've
Bowl. I
never
said,
met anyone
"Where's
from
my
the
hoodie?"
only person I met from Believe is Johnny Lazarus, who hosts the Rangers podcast for us. He's my friend.
Oh man,
He's the one who set me
I
up
saw
with
Cam. I'm like,
Believe.
hey man, where's my hoodie, man? What's going on? Oh yeah, I said it. Nah, I don't have it.
I don't know. I don't even know
I
how
guess
he
we're
got
not
into
them
it.
guys. I feel like Mecole Hardman.
We're like, oh yeah, no. But that's the thing. We just said we're gonna put the work in. That's the difference between us and Mecole Hardman.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
guess. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, not dude, not I guess. This is happening. This is it.
Yeah.
Um, I was gonna say about Breece though. Like, have you ever had someone because Carl Banks had to step in and like, all right, enough, like back off, you know? Have you ever had one of those autograph people who like knew? Because I've seen it outside WFN. You mentioned Tiki. I've walked out with Tiki, and there are people waiting there for him every day to sign autographs. They know where the building is, and they wait outside for him. And Tiki's the sweetest dude, and he'll just stop. I don't know if you know Tiki at all, but he's the nicest guy. He'll just stop. He'll sign everything. He's always pictures, always super kind to these people. Have you ever had a situation where someone's just harassing you?
Yeah, I did, and my wife had to step in. She had to be the one to really step in. Um, and then what they try to do is they'll try to send a kid.
Yes, this is what they do.
They'll
They
try to
send
send a
kids over.
kid to, oh, and I mean, it got to a point where the guy was like following us to the car, and she was like, "Hey, he just gave you 3 hours of sports. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
can you leave him alone? Like,
And not everyone has an NFL
thankfully it was just in a
linebacker to
parking.
protect them, you know, not
Yeah,
everyone has a lot like Carl Banks.
yeah, exactly. And so, mine was not in a situation where like I didn't have security. Like I could have made a phone call and had, the jet security. It was in the parking lot. So the biggest thing is
Who's the Jets version of Dom? You know, Dom from the Eagles went famous this year. Obviously, the Jets
mm,
have someone like that.
dumb.
Dom was the security guard from the Eagles who
I
got suspended
mean,
this year. I mean,
I,
there's got
I
to be someone that you call when if you get in
oh
trouble.
Bobby.
Bobby, I got to
Yeah.
write that down. We got to have Bobby on the show.
I have Bobby on. Bobby Mastrodi. That's my dude.
So like if you need somebody needs to clean up a situation, you call Bobby.
Well, I wouldn't say clean up because
Not you.
you're in New York and then
You're in the city, some stuff goes down. I was there.
I
I
call
was there with
Bobby.
no, I was there with Leonard
I'm
Williams
calling Bobby.
And Jamal Adams at a club in the city in 2019. And they're getting a little rowdy. I saw them outside getting a little rough.
But a lot of guys
And
take player protect though. Player
I'm
protect is a driver that's
right.
either
Yeah,
policeman or
but
off duty
listen,
officer,
if something
security.
happened that night, I wasn't with them long enough to see that anything went down, but I saw them leaving the club and they looked like, not, whatever. They
Yeah,
had a good night.
yeah.
Um, they probably called Bobby that night.
No, they probably don't. I mean, you got player protect. So player
Okay,
protect is a driver that you call that the team plays half of the fees for you.
got it.
Is one to keep you from DUI if you're gonna go out and have some drinks, but it's to protect you as well. Like those guys are like off duty cops or like head of security from separate from the New York Jets. So it's a company that does it. So you can either tell those guys, hey, if I'm going into a club or a lounge, you can come in with me or sit outside. So they're one phone call away and then they're
Got it.
inside. So, you're protected. If you use that resource, like you don't have to, but I did. Like when I had my family out or a big family, like, New York, man, is random things that can happen just walking down the street. So, I just wanted to have someone in arm's reach of, hey, we got an issue. I got my whole family with me. So,
Yep.
yeah, player protect. They did a good job. That's one thing I would say about New York is they gave you the resources to like really like keep you from making the headlines and the wrong reasons.
Yeah. Also this I was going to ask you a question. I don't even remember now. Um Cool. That was all I was going to ask about that. Um, let's get into a couple of things. We're seeing a lot of guys get cut today, right? Today, yesterday,
Mhm.
the Bills are like shedding salary. To me, the Bills and the Dolphins having to cut all pro players to sign Josh Allen, who's a turnover machine. Josh Allen's a great quarterback, but you're having to cut all these Pro Bowlers around him because you have to pay him. The Dolphins are going to do the same thing to pay Tua, who's not even as good as Josh Allen, and pay him more than Josh Allen is making. To me, that's like, this is great. The window for the Jets is now because all these teams have to shed salaries. Now, the biggest news was Russell Wilson, right? And the Broncos also cut Justin Simmons today, who's an I think he's 8-time Pro Bowler, and he's an all pro safety, and the Jets could use a safety and some safety depth. But the Russell Wilson thing is huge because he's out there going, I'm not mad I got benched. I'm mad because it sets a precedent. This is not normal. I'm out here. Like, he's making it about himself and like acting all mad. To me, Russell Wilson, you had every opportunity. It's the same thing. Like, you had 2 head coaches. It didn't work with either one of them. You had Nate Hackett, and then it didn't work again with Sean Payton. Like, Russ, you had every opportunity to earn and win this job. You were given this contract. They didn't want to give up on you. They gave you this giant contract to be the franchise quarterback in Denver. Like, how do you look at a situation like that where, sure, it's tough for the player, and I get it. But at the same time, like, stop playing the victim here, right? Like, you're Russell Wilson.
Yeah, but where does he stand with his statistics? Because Russell Wilson is a good quarterback. I think these
I
couple
know,
of years
but
being away from Seattle, we forget how good he was. And then
okay,
Russell Wilson is still
but at
good. He
some
can
point you have
still
to
help a
humble
team
yourself.
win.
Like,
Yeah,
if he's going to come in right now and he thinks he's just getting a starting job and because he deserves it or something, it's not going to work like that.
no, it's not. But I already knew
I
that.
don't care how good you are. It doesn't work for anyone like that.
Well, some guys that they go on to be starters that don't need to go on to be starters. You see guys all the time go to other teams and be starters. So I still think that Russell Wilson is a starting quarterback in the National Football League. He just needs to
Yeah.
be put in the right situation, the right head coach, the right GM, the right system. I've heard mixed things about Russell, so I don't know him personally.
Yep.
But I heard good things, bad things, which I'm sure comes with everyone. But
Yeah.
I think this guy
Especially a big
can.
personality like him,
Yeah,
that's what happens. You have some people it rubs the wrong way, some people love you. It's just how it is with a big, like, I know it personally. Like, I don't think like I walk around work with a big personality, but from day one that I showed up, I felt like, hey, I belong here. You know what I mean? I think, and some people, if they're a host or if they're, some people like didn't congratulate me when I got my opportunity, right? Some people who are like my coworkers. It's like, because we're fighting for the same opportunity, we're fighting for the same spot. So, like, to me and to them, it's like, oh, they're my competition. So some people take it the wrong way, but that's going to be anything. So, like, Russell Wilson, you're the franchise quarterback, you're the face of the franchise. Some people probably feel the wrong way about him, but that's going to happen. Like, he's got to rise above that.
maybe it's his personality. I don't know, because it's not the numbers. Because he's
Yeah.
sitting right in the middle of the pack to the top. I mean, he's putting up very good football numbers. He's taking care of the football. He's doing everything he can. But you have to ask yourself, from an organization standpoint, did Denver really do everything they did to like put guys around him to help him win? Like, did they really do that?
Yeah. But the thing is, they gave him all this guaranteed money. They fired his coach in middle of the year when it wasn't working out. They fired the coach. And then they brought in this Hall of Fame coach in Sean Payton, and it didn't work again. So at some
How
point,
did that
like,
not work though? How did that not work?
because they lost games.
But losing games doesn't mean that it's the quarterback's fault.
Yeah, he
Go
had
look
a
at his
really
numbers
good
and go look at Patrick Mahomes' numbers.
he had a really good stretch last year. It's true. No, he had a good stretch of football.
You know what
He
I mean?
played
So
well.
like losing does not,
Yeah.
obviously, like, let's take Zach Wilson for granted. Like, yeah, the Jets lost, but we know why they lost. We know
Yeah.
that. Denver, you can't say the same thing about Russell Wilson. They didn't lose
But they
because
had
of
one of
Russell
the
Wilson.
top defenses in the league also, Denver. I mean,
Yeah,
they
but
had one of
but
the
but he still had a productive season. His go look at his numbers. Compare his numbers to
No,
Patrick
I know.
Mahomes.
Yeah, he
So
was good
you know
he
what I
was
mean?
good.
Like, and Patrick Mahomes making $45 million a year or something like that, right? Something crazy. So
So
I don't think it's more of, oh, he didn't help us win. I think it's more of a, your personality just don't fit here, dog.
so
Like, you need to.
If you're Minnesota, you're Atlanta, one of these teams that feels like, hey,
I'll
we're
go
just
get him in Minnesota.
yeah?
I'll go get him in Minnesota and here's why. Because of the coach over there,
Yeah.
Kevin O'Connell.
Yep. He's a great offensive mind.
Great offensive mind. Go get Russell Wilson. Go get Russell. Kirk Cousins is He's not gonna
coming
be
off the
back
injury.
anytime
Yep.
soon. Coming off of an ACL, late ACL, not
Or
like a
Achilles. It
Aaron
was Achilles.
Rodgers,
Yeah.
Achilles. Sorry, yeah, Achilles. Sorry,
But did you see
a
him
late.
dancing at the NFL honors? Do you see Kirk Cousins dancing? He looks like he's
Yeah,
healthy.
he can dance, but he get away from a defensive player, right?
Again, we talked about this. Yeah.
That's
No, you're
different.
right. You're right,
Just like
Jim.
with Aaron, man. Yeah, Aaron
Yeah.
was out there throwing hoorah, but like,
Yeah, I
can you
saw it
take a tackle?
firsthand. He's
Can a
like
guy
limping
come lay
around like,
whip you and,
yeah.
and you be okay? But I
Yeah.
think
Let's see.
he'll fit
Let's let
good in
Quinnen tackle him
Minnesota.
once, see what happens.
Exactly.
He's gonna look like
But
me.
I do think that I think that Russell Wilson is a starting quarterback. I still think that he's a guy that can help you win,
But
get you to
now
the
he has
playoffs.
to go into a spot and prove it. Like he can't go into a spot and expect it. Like he's at that point where like, and
Mhm.
I think he can prove it. But it's almost like a humbling experience where he has to
But don't
humble
give him the
himself.
money then. Don't give him the money
Well, he's
thinking he's
not.
that
He's
guy.
not going to get a huge contract because he has all the
Yeah.
guaranteed money from Denver, so they're paying
So
him anyway.
give him something small. Say, hey,
Yeah, they could give him the vet
this is
minimum.
like this is like a prove it year for you. Maybe a 1-year deal,
Is my
right? Or
ice
you do a
machine making
2-year
a ton
deal,
of
second
noise?
second year option. No.
No, all right, we're good.
Yeah, I hear it now. But I'm saying, like, I think it's gonna be a prove it year, 2-year deal, maybe second year option. Saying, hey, this if you come back, we'll give you this. But he's still a guy that can help you. Who else is gonna help you? Like, I'm
Yeah,
gonna be honest, I don't think that
I mean,
this
yeah.
receiving class coming out of the draft, they're loaded.
Oh yeah, Marvin Harrison, dude.
Quarterback wise, there's a few guys I think that can come in and help you quarterback wise. Like,
Yeah,
it's not like a loaded quarterback
I
class.
mean, they could
So
go draft Michael Penix, and
they
people
can.
people tied them to Zach Wilson, Minnesota, because they're like, hey, Zach Wilson, same thing. Kevin O'Connell, talented guy. You know, maybe he can get the most out of Zach. I think Zach's going to end up in LA. His quarterback coach just went to the Rams also. And that Sean McVay could be like, hey, let me try and harness that talent. Let him sit behind Matthew Stafford and see what happens. So I think he's going to go to LA, but we'll see what happens. Like, that's interesting.
If I was Zach, I ain't gonna lie. If I was Zach, I would go to the Chargers, Los
The
Angeles Chargers,
Chargers sit behind Justin Herbert. Oof.
and get developed by
Yep.
Jim.
By Jim Harbaugh. Yeah. No, you're not wrong
He's
about
known
that.
for developing
I mean,
quarterback
I mean,
talent.
think about Kansas City. Kansas City would be a great option too. He probably doesn't play there
Mhm.
behind Patrick. Obviously, he's not going to play.
But I like Zach fitting in that system better, that Jim Harbaugh system. You know,
Got
I
it.
like him
Got it.
fitting better than that. With that Kansas City system, you have to be magical. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's so creative.
Right.
I don't
Exactly. So
think
you're
Zach
saying let
able
him
to
learn
create
like the basics.
the basics of it. Yes, I think just from a quarterback development standpoint, you got a good quarterback in Justin Herbert who you can kind of mimic your career off of and see how it's really carried to be a young guy because Justin's still young. You know what I mean? Like you can have that relationship. Let's be honest, you can have that relationship. What kind of relationship does Zach and Aaron have? Being the age difference, it's almost like a dad and son relationship more than like a friend relationship where you can actually be yourself. I just see Zach's personality coming out more, being behind a guy like Justin, getting developed by Jim, seeing it, he's a West Coast guy, like out, with BYU, right? He's out that area anyway. Like I think that just fits him more than the East Coast, New York, gritty grind type of culture organization.
Yep, I totally get that. Last thing before we wrap up, and this is what I wanted to ask you before. It's just a random question. Do you get like I don't know if you do or if you have former teammates that do and you know anything about it. You get a former severance package from the league, like a veteran severance package?
Yeah, you get
Like is
that.
you get payments? Do you know if
Yeah.
that goes up when the salary cap is going up exponentially?
No, it
Does
doesn't.
that it doesn't change for
It
you?
goes up. I know they didn't do it that COVID year for a couple years. So like 2021, 22, there was some kind of like, oh, you didn't get money for it. Like money wasn't being put in players' account because of the
Right.
pandemic. But yeah,
Like
guys get severance.
to me,
But
it's like,
severance is not like something you get paid for life. It's a one-time lump sum thing.
got it. Because Boomer
So
was
it's
saying
severance.
he gets like a payment, and he's like, look, the league doesn't sign the TV deal they have today. The league doesn't make the money they have today. If I don't play, like you said, it's all about the shield. But like we help advance the game to this point that they could make this giant new deal. So why are we not getting paid for that? You know what I mean?
I think they do it in every year they visit the CBA. Guys are getting more money. Like the vet minimum is up higher.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that they were discussing with the vet minimum was, hey, the vets get paid this, the rookies get paid that, or does everybody get paid the same? And we was like, no, rookies have to come prove themselves to get paid a vet minimum. Why you have an 8-year veteran getting paid vet minimum, and then you have a rookie who hadn't proven himself get paid the same thing doesn't count. So
Yep.
that was a player to player type of thing. But other than that, like severance is just a payment, and you get like annuity and
Right.
you get pension and all that stuff. How old is Boomer?
Boomer's 62.
Oh, so he's getting pension. So his
Yeah.
pension's probably healthy.
He's old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His
Yeah.
pensions are healthy. That's what
Well,
I
he's
tell
still
you.
getting paid also from CBS and the NFL because he does the games on Sundays and then he works
Yeah.
for us every day. And think about it, he's 62 and he wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning every day to go do the morning show. Like
Yeah.
that's a dude who's
So
committed. You know what I mean?
you committed, but I think guys at 62 are in bed earlier too, so it's easy to get up at
No,
3.
he's tweeting about the Rangers, watching the Rangers game at 10 p.m. And
Oh yeah,
then
he's a
and then he's
dog.
up
Man.
at
I
3
can't
and
do
then
that.
he's in the studio like, "All right, let's go." Like he's still loaded up on testosterone, that dude. Like
Yeah,
he loves getting physical. Like he'll rough up some of the young guys in the building. Like he has no issue coming up. Again, he's much bigger than me. Like he's 6'5", he's huge.
yeah,
And he'll come over to me. I'm a big dude, but he'll come over to me and he'll just, like shove me into a wall just because. You know what I mean?
yeah.
He's a physical dude. He's a big dude. But he's crazy. Yeah, it's wild to see him. Like he loves it. He comes in and he's always ready to go in the morning. It's wild to see that because most people at that hour come in like, oh, good morning. You know what I mean? And he's walking
Me,
around like,
I'm not a morning guy.
I'm not a morning guy either. But you
I'm
know
not.
what? Getting up at 3 a.m. almost feels like a night. Like it's like I'd rather get up at 3 a.m. than get up at 7 a.m. Because
I'm the
7 feels
same.
like it's like, oh, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. 3 a.m. It's like the middle of the night. You're getting up, you're
Yeah,
alone. Like the apartment's dark. I walk outside to the parking lot, nobody's there. I just, I could do my thing.
yeah,
3 a.m. feels better to me somehow. I don't know. I can't explain it. But like 3
yeah,
a.m. is fine. 7 a.m. it's like, oh, I can't do this. You know
yeah.
what I mean?
I hate it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
hate it.
All right. If we don't have anything else, we'll talk soon. We got to do more episodes this offseason. We're gonna, like we said, have Brent Boyer on. We got to have Braylon now. A bunch of people. We'll have fun with it. A whole bunch of stuff coming this offseason. We're gonna do a draft preview. We actually might do a collab with the Giants podcast, the Giants Believe podcast. I was talking
Well,
to what?
what? Yeah.
I mean, I was talking to one of the bosses about this, so we'll see what happens with that. I mean, we'll
Let's
obviously
talk
run
about
it
it.
by you,
Is it gonna be
but
like
to
an
do
argument debate? What is it
no,
gonna
just
be?
like a mock draft. Just like,
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not like a huge, I'll be honest. Like, I'll have to do some research because I'm not like one of these guys who's like looking up and down draft boards. Like, you had a sleeper for the draft. You had someone you wanted the Jets draft. Mention that real quick.
Isaac Garindo, fastest
Yeah.
running back in the draft. I saw the guy come on late in the season, which I think that's the biggest evaluation. When you're talking about the running back position, you want to see how he performs late in the season when he's beat up. And he got a full load late in the season, went for 800 yards on like 130 carries, like 13 touchdowns, 220. I seen him, listen, his 75-yard run, he pulled away from DBs, and I was like, he's fast. But when he ran 4.33, I was like, oh no, he's fast at 220. There's so
And you
many
think he's
things
going to
you
be
can do with
available
him.
like fifth, sixth round?
Yeah, I don't think, obviously with the value of running backs now, there's no need to go get a guy who didn't have a full load
Opposite
workload.
though. If there's a top running back, it's better to, and I've been saying this, and now people are starting to say it. I've been saying this for 2 years. It's better to take them in the first round than to take them later if you think they're really good, because then you have the fifth year option you could pick up on them. Whereas if you take them later, you can't pick, there's no fifth year option. So it's almost better to take them earlier, have them for 5 years, and then get rid of them than to have to
I
pay,
mean,
than to have,
I'm
right?
biased, so yeah.
I know you
First,
are.
first round, first pick, take a running back.
Okay, there you go. But you get what I'm saying, like, because then you have
Mhm.
more years of control. So it's almost better to take, because you don't need more than 5 years of control with the running back anyway. It's like, all right, after 5 years, we don't want you. And that's how
Yeah,
the league has been. So
yeah.
you just keep them on their rookie contract, and then you don't need to give them that second contract. It's an interesting conversation. We'll get into that. We have lots of stuff to talk about this offseason.
Mm.
and we'll get into all of it. Until then, I'll see you. All right.
All right, man.
See you. All right. Let me do the intro and whatnot. And I got to tell you one thing before we hop off. They sent this whole long thing. What am I supposed to do? Coming up on In-Flight Snack, we have a loaded episode for you today. We talked about the Braylon Edwards story. We talked about the Mecole Hardman story. We talked about Breece Hall. We talked about the draft. We talked about the combine. So many different things. A whole lot coming up with former Jets running back Bilal Powell and me, Rami, Lavi. And of course, it's on the great Believe Network. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review, leave a comment, and tell your Jet fan friends this is where they need to be to listen to all things Jets. You can find us on YouTube. You can find all the Believe stories at si.com and follow us across all of Believe's social networks. But coming up, great episode. All that and a whole lot more. Stay tuned. And today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline continues to be your number one source for your basketball wagering needs, including pro and college hoops throughout the year. With up-to-the-minute odds, stats, and trends, you can follow your favorite team's path to the playoffs with in-game live betting, contests, and all the best player props. Experience the world's best wagering platform anytime from your desktop or your mobile devices. Head to BetOnline today to become part of the team, and remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Guys, you got to do this before March Madness starts. Again, BetOnline, the game starts here.